It's a happy coincidence that these three people sit in the same room for a given day in Madrid, because they are business travelers. Probably in every single month they visit 1 or 2 or 3 continents. So in regards to this situation of you like visiting many different scenarios, countries, markets, we usually speak about the differences of big data penetration in the US versus Europe, and inside Europe, which countries are more adapting faster, cloud, big data technologies, who are the most aware in regulatory matters. I wanted to ask you, how about China? Will you see China as a newcomer? You see it as a follower? What is happening in the next 18 months?
Good question. So, who will be the break? Okay, for me, between US, because we are in Europe and US, and so there is a big or a huge technology leap, and well, you know it better. Big data was invented in the US, and the white paper from Google is, right now it is history. So they have like 2 years, in my opinion, in advance to Europe. In the US, some of the customers that we are working with are working in the volumes of more than 15 petabytes. In Europe, there is now a private company that has more than 1 petabyte. So I would say not for all the countries of Europe, but in general, like more than 1 year, 2 years in advance, US against Europe. And about China, we will talk later, because that's another matter.
Very good.
But so I think what you're saying about Europe is interesting, because I think that's true that the US started earlier, and within the US, there's some disparities between the Bay Area and the East Coast versus the rest of the country. But some of what I think I'm seeing in Europe, and that's, earlier this week I was at Fling Forward in Berlin, and a lot of people I talked to there are kind of leapfrogging the first stage of big data, leapfrogging the MapReduce batch stage, and moving straight to streaming, for example. And so, there are some really early, very advanced early adopters in Europe doing very interesting things, and companies that were earlier to adopt big data in the US are now, I don't want to say stuck, but they now have to deal with their previous investment, and to them it becomes a migration story. So I think that is also redistributing the cards a little bit as part of the move to streaming.
Yeah. Well, in China, I've been there many times and performing this type of projects over big data and decisions using big data. What I can tell is that it's still a hype there. So it's still a fantastic thing that, wow, big data. So you have some companies that already understood what you can do with big data. And of course, big data is, and data analytics using big data is good when you make money with that. And some companies already understood that. Some other ones are still trying to play. So I know a bank there that told me, Daniel, wow, we have big data. We have 3.7 petabytes of data. Wow, this is big data. How much money you already made with that? Well, nothing yet. So it's a very nice storage capacity that you have, but it's not big data. So in China, they are starting. The point is, everything there is big, not just the data, but everything you do, you have a lot of customers. So they will start quite faster in making money with that.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. And about Europe, also I think that this leapfrog is happening. The investment and the movement into big data has been very slow, but the companies are going to the real-time, machine learning, new generations, Spark and all this. And yeah, in some way you can think that some of the companies that were early adopters have some legacy technology. And the good point there is that some of them are already moving the 1,000 nodes of clusters from Hadoop to other technologies and so on. And they are doing, and they can do it. It is not that easy, but they can do it. But in Europe, that we have seen is that there is like a big, there are some countries that are more delayed than other ones. For example, in my opinion, England, UK is more advanced. Also the Nordic countries, they are using big data in quite a pretty well. But Germany, France, Spain, also because the crisis in Spain has been bigger than in other countries, then the investment has been smaller. But they are not adopting big data as fast as UK or Nordic countries. I don't know what's your opinion about this, because you know quite well Nordic countries
I
and
agree.
UK.
I agree totally on that aspect. But what I see is that the adoption of big data is not just a question of the companies. What I see is that the adoption of the big data is how good this is for the customers. So everything that happens on big data, it's happening because it's a social event. So as much as the companies can, using big data, bring benefits to the consumers, to the customers, the better will be and faster will be the adoption of that. It's something that I really see as important. So in Spain, France, even in Italy, for example, the consumers are asking for that. So they are pressuring everybody. So it will gonna happen.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that transition also to big data, to some extent, is intermixed with the transition to cloud. In theory, these are two different things. You can do big data in and out of cloud, and you can use cloud with or without big data. But in practice, because both of those transitions are happening at the same time, either by coincidence or for good reasons, a lot of the customers that we see transitioning are transitioning to both models at the same time. So they're adopting big data as they adopt cloud. And so the rate of adoption of big data is also tied to the rate of adoption of cloud when that's the dynamic that's pushing them towards it.
Yeah, and this is a very good point, because as much as everybody understands that the environment you use this is not the key, and the benefits of the cloud is that the investments or support or everything else is not on me, but I'm responsible as a bank or as a telco or whatever user it is. I'm responsible for using this big data in the cloud and make good decisions with that. This will even move faster the evolution of big data. Yeah. Because I'm really a fan of the cloud process, because it's something that it's not the core of big data, but it's very important for the big data. The core for big data is taking decisions and benefit to the consumers. If it's in the cloud, wonderful, because everybody can have access to that. You can use this in a more global way.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there is a very important point here also between Europe and US, and it is the data protection for citizens. There is a huge, several differences between Europe and US, but I think that the perfect point could be something in the middle, because maybe sometimes in the US the citizens or the data is too public and is not protected, but I think, and this is also my personal opinion, but I have been talking here in Spain with the Congress and people to try to change the law. The European law is too restrictive, and this is a big impediment against startups and big data technology.
So there are some people actually claiming that the regulatory environment is strangling the innovation in large banks. So in Spain we have strong finance sector. England, London is based on the banking economy. Do you see fintech phenomenon as adopting and embracing the digital economy, incorporating big data from the start, moving to cloud? Do you think that this is going to be truly disruptive? Are banks being held back because of regulatory privacy concerns, and big data is going to be like the gates of a dam that open and fintech will take over very fast?
I cannot answer because most of our customers are banks, so
I'm sure you have an answer that is complying to all your...
Yes, what I do think about the regulatory environment is, of course, the protection and data protection laws are here to stay, but I'm quite a movie fan, so I really love to be in this environment, and I do remember one quote from Jurassic Park that during one session that they were saying about controlling the things in Jurassic Park, and someone just says that, well, you know, life finds a way.
Yes.
So what I really do believe on the process of this is that life will find a way. Whose life here? Consumers. So more and more they will see the benefit on that. More and more they will see that they have advantages on sharing their data in a certain level and having benefits on better services, better pricing, better whatever it's needed. I think life will find a way. The point here is how you can have products that will solve my need at the time that I need, on the way that I need. Once this is happening, life finds a way.
Yeah, I think we'll see that evolution on both sides of the Atlantic. I mean, I see that every day. You know, I'm French, but I've been in California for 18 years. So when I'm there, you know, I have to explain kind of the reason and kind of why people in Europe care so much about that. And when I'm here, you know, with my American hat on, I have to explain, you know, the value that also is derived from access to the data, you know, in terms of, you know, healthcare, everything. There's a lot of social value to be gathered. And so, you know, finding the middle ground that will give access to that value is something that on both sides of the Atlantic, you know, people will eventually, I hope, converge on.
Yeah. Now about this, the banks and the digital players and big data and so on. Yeah, I think that big data is a big weapon or a more advanced weapon, and they are using it much better because some of them don't have this regulatory, like in Europe, which are saying where you can have the data, store it with a key, with a double key, and this is something that, but I am seeing more and more the big banks move into big data, jump to cloud, and to big data in cloud. With less, some years ago, they were really scared about to move data to cloud and to big data. And right now they are doing it, and they are advancing quite fast. And in fact, well, there is the question there was, they have, I think, lost 4% of quote in the market in just 2 years, and so they are forced to move fast, and they are moving now really fast. So I think that in some years they will be fighting with the same weapons.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like the weapons now are being democratized. You know, it used to be, so in the financial industry and others, a few players really had the capacity to use big data, and the other who had the disadvantage. You know, now, you know, thanks to open source, thanks to cloud, thanks to fully managed services, you said weapons, I like to say tools. The tools are available to everybody. And so, you know, like we're seeing with even regulators. So, you know, Google, for example, is working with SunGard in New York on a project that SEC has put out for bid to do what they call the consolidated audit trail, which is capture all trades from all markets and consolidate in one place, so you can go back in time and realize what happened during a mini crash or things like that. And that's the kind of thing that, you know, a company like SunGard now building on Google Cloud can do, because we let them ingest huge number of events really quickly, continuously. And again, that means that you don't have to be one of the giant banks to be able to do that. You know, you can do that, you know, and leverage somebody else's infrastructure.
And a good point on that is, as much as this is being democratic across different other services and services providers, one of the points that the banks also are now understanding more is that, okay, if I'm not on that, someone else that is not a banking regulated entity will provide services instead of me. So when you look at, you can
Yep.
you can Google something quite easily, and you will find that there are many different, credit providers or everything else like that that will replace the banks if they don't move on that aspect. One of the points that are really key here is how omni-channel we are. So in a banking environment, for example, FICO made some tests, and we found that to ask for a credit card, have it approved, receive it, and make the first, charge, first buying with that. You can have, in an omni-channel bank, more than 760 different ways to perform that. Ask in one channel, use another one to provide documents, receive and so the vast array of different contact points, together with the vast array of data, brings to outsiders valuable information that they can replace the service from the bank.
And how different industries? So we have been covering like finance, insurance to some extent during this roundtable. How about use cases in industries? We have had talks here yesterday and today about amazing impact of big data in e-commerce, logistics. Which would be the use case that each of you would pick and cherry pick out of your experience, first-hand experience, non-being financial, where you see that cloud, big data have been making a difference? I don't know, in any order. Maybe William.
I guess you have to pick. Maybe I'll pick two. I'll pick one which is a very characteristic one. So, in retail, for example, companies that are much more aggressive in choosing the products they bring to market, changing them much faster. Like a company like Zulily, which I don't think they sell in Europe, but in a relatively big e-tailer in the US, and kind of what's unique about them is that they change their collections every week. And so it's all powered by analytics, and they decide what the market wants. And so that's made them a very unique proposition compared to other retailers. And so that's the kind of thing that they can do by using big data very efficiently and being, they're a customer of our platform, but they could do that elsewhere as well and get really business insight on this, to your point around serving the customer. So that one I like because it's very typical. Like in any industry, that kind of application, you can translate that to whatever business you're in. As far as picking one, which is kind of near and dear to my heart, is a lot of work going on in genomics right now, which has a very clear potential to have huge social impact. And genomics is one case, but it's big data by default. You do not do genomics on small data, and so the rise of big data tooling and of cloud as a almost infinitely scalable backend is really opening up not just the opportunity for more processing, but the opportunity for more collaboration, which is really big in that area. So it's not just that a university can run more calculation, but they can collaborate with health providers, with other programs that veteran programs that do genomics or autism programs, and they all bring their data on the cloud and have a really good way to collaborate. And that's to me is very, very exciting because the social impact of that collaboration is going to be tremendous.
Mm-hmm. What I do see a fantastic transformation, and this is already happening, but will be even bigger, is the transformation from car ownership to personal mobility. Mm-hmm. So when you look at this situation, so instead of owning a car and having this financed, I have to provide the maintenance, I have to go to the gas station and so forth, I will be able to pay and buy my personal mobility. So I want to go from point A to point B. And with this, I will use a different sets of transportations that can even make me drive a car, but combining all of them to make this easy. So what I'm seeing is, especially with the industry, the cars owners and the financial services, and even some cities are doing this. In the Nordics, for example, I'm seeing very good experiences that you use car sharing public transportation, bicycles, whatever else you have to made available from Daniel, came from point A to point B and paying a fee for that. And this evolves to enormous quantity of big data because I have to have the resources, the transportation resources available at the point of origin and at the point of the delivery. I have to have those maintained with, gasoline or whatever else you need, electricity. You have to have the tires checked and all the maintenance across and insurance. And wow, this is huge. This is really big data. So, and bringing benefit to the society. So when you think about that, I'm seeing this, the next big revolution on transportation.
For me, this is a bit more pragmatic because we are seeing this like a requirement continuously from the customers. It is the big companies are moving from product-centric to customer-centric. So all the projects and use cases that are related to customer-centric, I think it is one of the best opportunities to have quick wins for the big data technology. And about this, our personal recommendation always is not to go for a big bang approach to start with big data. Don't go for the mega big data lake with all the data of the company, and then we will think about what to do with that big data lake. No. Go for a quick win. Customer-centric is perfect, and you can choose several. You can choose, for example, in the telecom companies, the churn rate reduction is like the star. And then the customer fidelity or loyalty. In retail companies, the digital marketing with the digital touch points is very important also to close that circle. And big data is especially good for that. Even not only digital touch points, but also integrating in the point of sales, the physical ones, and in the shops, while the customer is working on that shop, coupons or discounts in real time with big data. All this, customer-centric, is the start. And for us, a good step is to go customer-centric hyper-personalization. That is key for all of the use cases.
Yeah, actually, Frank Kettelars a couple of hours ago mentioned here that in regards to big bang or quick wins, he claimed that in his experience, big data projects, when they take longer than 1 year to have any return, they are doomed, or the chances that they are not going to succeed. So that was like a very intuitive time frame. In regards to that, and your presentation and also yours, William, you made a good overview of the evolution of technology from mainframes to now we have a software dominance over maybe hardware. So what is next? I mean, we see a diverse degree of penetration of big data in different industries. We seem to have the tooling. We seem to have, if you want, the history. Even legacy systems do not seem to be that such a drag. Do we need something else to really make a change? Is it going to be people, data scientists, data analysts, in-house people asking the right questions? What do you think is missing in the next future?
I think, actually, I'm bring back very quickly what you said at the beginning, that speed of iteration and experimentation, not taking a year for a project, I think that's really critical. I think that's one of the things, to some extent, that's how we work at Google. Like the infrastructure is there. People don't come with a proposal to a VP with a business plan. They come with a working prototype that they've put together and then say, no, let's discuss, is this worth shipping? And that's what cloud allows everyone to do, that, you go today, you have an idea, you write a pipeline, you run your pipeline. And in one day, you've spent a few dollars of resources, you spent a few hours of your time, and you've processed, a terabyte of data, and you've tested the idea. And if it doesn't work, hey, throw it away. You've wasted almost nothing. If it works, what you have is a system that's ready to scale, that's ready to, it's not a throwaway proof of concept. It's really something that can be moved to production. So I think that quick iteration is really how we develop products and what we want to bring to everybody. In terms of your question with like what's missing, what's the next step, I think from a technology perspective, the clear next step for me is machine learning. Obviously, it's not like it's not happening, it's happening already, but kind of the people really realizing the power of, especially of the more advanced modern form of machine learning using deep learning and really understanding what it can do for you, and frankly, understanding its limitation as well as what it can do, because people tend to overestimate it in some areas, like how magical it is, and underestimate its true power. And I think that's something that over the next year or so, there will be more maturity around the power. There will be more maturity around the tooling and the services, and that, from a technical perspective, is one big next step. And then the people who actually can apply that to business. To your point around, at the end, it's big data if it generates value for the user. And so having people who understand the business and can map those tools to the application is really what unlocks the value.
And another point on that is also, in my personal opinion, is what you can not just do for your company as a big data, but how you can balance this in order to provide results for your shareholder and at the same time results for the market. And this is really important when you look at the last crisis. So who wanna save a bank again with your own money? No one. So as much as also big data and all of this socialized information can bring to this system the capability to be social, protected, you can be more transparent, you can be more secure to everybody, so something that will bring more stability to the market, the better also this will be. And I strongly believe that this might be the next step, something that is missing. So can I use big data to be more, to have a more social responsibility? Can I have the big data to be more transparent? I think yes, and we need to move on that direction.
All right.
Well, I will try to jump a little bit further to maybe 10 years, because I think this is something that in 10 years someone will see this video and will say, this guy was crazy, he didn't match anything, he wasn't forecasting anything right, but so it will be good fun. I think that in 10 years, really big data, some people, companies, are thinking, okay, big data is about hardware commodity with a software layer. So there are a lot of companies that are investing to have fiber optic buses to move the data much faster, quantum microprocessors. So you have a mega machine, which is cheaper. You will not need this hardware commodity working together. With one, you will be able to solve it. So maybe big data in some years will disappear. My opinion is that no, that maybe in 10 years what will happen is that we will have as hardware commodity these computers with quantum microprocessors, with fiber optic bus, and that will be the hardware commodity. But nevertheless, we will need this cluster shared nothing to process the data, because the volume of data in real time that we will need will be so big that still with that power in each node or in that hardware commodity, it will not be enough to do it alone. And why? What's the reason I am saying this? Is because I think we are only starting. I think that in 10 years, maybe no, but 20 years, our grandsons will ask, really, you daddy, you were driving the cars? That is crazy, that was very dangerous, why? And they will not understand that we were driving. And so self-driving cars will be all around, sensors will be all around, and especially for me, the future is AI, artificial intelligence. Why? Because the way self-driving cars are going now, I don't see AI as a robot with a computer thinking and moving, or a self-driving car with the computing engine inside. I see artificial intelligence cloud with thousands or millions of these mega quantum computers working in big data technology in the future, integrating all the data of the world. For example, if a car is moving like this, a self-driving car, he will take into account not only the data from his sensor, but also the data from all the sensors of the other cars that are going in this direction, and in this one, or moving, and they will synchronize to go faster, but in a more secure way. So the AI will be cloud, and will be big data with super hardware commodity. And the same for people. I think that the people, we will have maybe not 1,000, but hundreds of sensors all around our body, and that the science, the healthcare, everything will be sensing our body, detecting any sickness, anything that you could have, and preventing before it is happening. So in order to have digitalized the world, synchronizing all that data, moving in a more secure world and a better world, you will need AI, cloud, big data with supercomputing.
Okay, some predictions there, very fascinating.
Just to get fun in 10 years,
Exactly.
Say, okay, this guy was crazy.
I hope we will all be there then. So thank you very much. It's been very, very nice, but we are like 5 minutes past our time. So please, thank you very much, the
Thank you.
panelists.
Thank you.